the perfect steak every time. Yes, there's butter. Yes, there's beautiful caramelization. This is my version of the perfect steak. The perfect steak doesn't have to be complicated, but I do think it's really easy to kind of stuff it up. And that's a major problem when you have a beautiful piece of steak that you've possibly spent quite a lot of dollars on. So this is like my foolproof method of cooking a steak. So we're gonna get to the technicalities of that a little bit later on. But first of all, I wanna get going on some peppercorns because my perfect steak has a beautiful peppery kind of vibe to it. So I'm gonna start off with some Szechuan peppercorns. Some black peppercorns and some white peppercorns. I have a very special piece of beef here today, so I'm going all out with the 3 peppercorns. The point here though is that you want to keep your peppercorns moving around in your pan. Helps when you've got a pan with an even distribution of heat so you don't get any spices burning. Now, just when you can start to smell like the beautiful citrusy kind of fragrance of the Szechuan peppercorns, that's when you know that your spices are done. You might be able to see a little bit of smoke coming off as well. That's perfect. Now, I'm just gonna pop them in here and just grind to a nice fine powder. And we're gonna make a compound butter. So I think, there are so many different ways to cook a steak, right? But I think butter roasting has gotta be the best way. You just get so much beautiful flavor, and also you can flavor your butter, almost like cheat up the umami a little bit as well with the next ingredient that I've got going on here. So if we take our butter, unsalted as well, because we're gonna add in some miso paste. Miso paste, obviously the big umami kick, and this is gonna make things steakier, beefier, more seasoned and salty. It's gonna make things really good. Now I want some garlic here as well. And a little scoop here of our peppercorn mix. Let's give that a really good mix together. Now I just want to scoop my butter out onto some baking paper here. Okay, just roll that up. Need some cling film. And you're just basically using the cling film and the baking paper to make a nice kind of cylinder shape. Just makes it nice to be able to cut the butter into nice rounds a little bit later on. Oftentimes when I'm making a compound butter like this, I'll make a double batch and keep some in the freezer for next time. Okay, so keep twisting those edges. Okay, now let's chit chat steak, guys. Okay, so I pretty much have had a massive splurge here and have the most beautiful porterhouse steaks here. Now, this is gonna be a little confusing because here in Australia, we call this cut of steak a porterhouse or a sirloin. But in the US, in some parts and other parts of the world, you might call a T-bone steak a porterhouse, and you might call this a strip steak. Anyway, this piece, whether you call it a porterhouse, a strip steak or a sirloin, it's got a beautiful layer of fat here and really nice tender cut of meat. So it's beautiful. Now these guys are really thick too. So this is a really great way to cook a really big, thick, juicy steak. All right, so I'm gonna start off with a little bit of salt, first of all. A little bit of salt. We're gonna go hard on the salt, guys. You know why? Because this, as I mentioned, is a really big, thick cut of meat here. The salt's not gonna penetrate very much at all, and a lot of it's gonna fall off. But what the salt does do is contribute to a beautiful crust on your steak. So you don't wanna skip it, and you don't wanna be too stingy on that salt. So now we wanna go in with a little bit more of our pepper mix. Oh, actually, and I'm just gonna get my pan heating up, because the other thing is you want your pan super, super, super like scary hot. Now, would you look at that? I mean, they already look so beautiful. It's just like a work of art already. Should we stop there? Let's stop the video. Done. No. They look so stunning. Now, the other thing though is that these have been sitting at room temperature for around about an hour. You want to make sure there's no fridge chill going on here because one, you won't get a really good crust if your steaks are cold, because that cold steak will hit the hot pan, steam, and then you've got a whole lot of moisture, and then you're not getting any crispy crust caramelization going on. Two, you don't want the steaks too cold through the center because then you won't get a really even cook. So 2 reasons to be organized and take your steak out of the fridge before you cook. Now I'm gonna go and get my butter as well. This is one I did make yesterday, so it's really nice and firm. And what I'm going to do is just cut it into nice thick rounds. Now, I'm using Analon X pans today. They have a really even heat distribution and also quite a heavy base, so that's going to hold that heat once you get the steaks in there. It's not going to lose its heat really quickly. And this is pretty cool, when you throw your oil in there, it stays in the middle, it doesn't run out the side. It really annoys me when that happens in pans. Doesn't that annoy you, Hayley? Yeah. Like you put the oil in and then it's like, phew, it's gone. Yeah. And then you only get like parts of your steak cooked, like one part's brown, you know. It's the details, isn't it? All right, so I'm gonna get my steaks in here and I'm very excited to hear this sizzle. Everyone ready? Shh, it's gonna happen right now. It's such a fun, you know, I just love getting steaks in the pan. It's just so exciting. So we're starting, you might be thinking, why are we starting with oil when I've got all this butter here that we've gone to the trouble of making? If I put the butter in now, it's going to burn. It's just going to get all bitter and burn before the steaks are ready. So the oil is going to help us get going on that crust. So I'm going to leave these to sit around about 2 minutes per side, or until I have a really beautiful, deep crust going on. How many times can I say crust in this video? You can move them like around in the pan, but don't flip them over yet. Just 2 minutes until you see a really, really nice crust. Who's got some more words for the word for crust? No? Hit me up in the comments. So my steaks are about 4 centimeters thick. That's big. So what I like to do when my steaks are really big is have my oven preheating around about 120 Celsius so that I can gently cook the steaks in there through once I've got the color that I want. Okay, I'm going to turn these over now. Watch that sizzle, oh my goodness, so exciting. See what I mean about how beautiful and even that crust is? That comes down to, one, taking your steaks out of the fridge so they don't have that chill, and two, making sure you have that even heat. So that's how you get a really good even crust like that. That's crazy good. Another 2 minutes on this side. All right, now I have got some really good color here now on both sides. One thing you cannot do, because it would be so tragic, would be not to render and crisp up that beautiful fat that you have on the side of this particular cut of beef. So I'm just holding that steak up, making sure that we've got a really nice sear on that lovely fat side as well. Okay, so now the fun part, I'm gonna go in with the butter. Okay, so now we're just doing the most luscious kind of basting. I mean, look at that butter. Oh, that is so over the top, but so necessary. That is a beautiful amount of flavor, and I tell you now, it smells divine. Okay, now while you're doing this, I like to keep turning the steaks over a little. That pan is holding a beautiful amount of heat, so I don't want one side to get more heat than the other, if you like. So turn, baste, And now to give everything like a really beautiful, even extra edge, this is kind of optional, but it really makes things beautiful and fragrant. I'm gonna grab a hold of some herbs here. I've got some thyme and some rosemary. They just get thrown in here in the last minute. And then this is really cool because then you can use the herbs sort of like as a trivet for your steak, so they're not sitting right on the bottom of that hot pan. All right, so because my steaks are so thick and I want to just like gently cook them through now because they have that beautiful color on the outside, I'm gonna pop them into the oven. So very low heat, 120 Celsius. And it's helpful when you're doing steaks that you do have a pan that can go into the oven. And that's just literally gonna be like 3 or 4 minutes, and then we're gonna pull them out. Okay, so how to tell though whether that steak is cooked all the way through. So what I would do is I'd be checking in the oven to make sure, one, by touching the steak, and there's a little rule of thumb here that if you do this and you do this, that's rare. If you do this, that's medium rare, which to me is like the perfect way to do a steak. But a lot of people also find that, you know, touching thing a bit hard to do. So my other way to do it is to get a metal skewer, poke that through the center of the steak, pull it out, and then if you just touch it to your top lip, it should just be warm. If it's just warm, it means that it's medium rare through the center. If it's cold, it's not cooked, it's rare. And if it's really burning hot, well, you kind of screwed it up and it's overcooked. So be checking early and be checking often, okay? And what you do also want to do is make sure you rest the steak. So pop the steak onto another plate that's not hot. My herbs around there as well, which gives me plenty of time to do some sides here. I'm going to do some green beans. So now we're at my favorite bit. Oh my goodness, I do love to slice a steak. Okay, here we go. Moment of truth. Look at that beautiful, beautiful color, and see how it's really even from top to bottom. It is a perfect pink without that sort of heavy gray, like, you know when you've got that really gray ring, which means that you kind of overcooked the outside part. This is beautifully even. Oh, so good. Just gonna pop my steak out. A little drizzle with some of that pan sauce. Just a few little extra herbs here. And there you go, my friends. My perfect steak, beautiful crust on the outside. Let's get in here, shall we? Oh wow, that is so beefy. I mean, that like miso umami kind of butter just makes everything taste more, like more beefy, more salty, more everything. Yum. And you get that really lovely hint of those herbs, just a touch of garlic, like not too much. And I gotta say, like, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that cook. So good. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed all of that sizzling steak goodness. Now, I actually have a very exclusive offer on the Analon.com website. You can use the code Marion20 to get 20% off site-wide. Now that is super exciting and super delicious. Thanks guys, see you.